He fought hard to avoid this moment.
Good afternoon, everybody.
But the embattled and increasingly isolated Boris Johnson had to admit he had little choice but to go.
I want you to know how sad I am to be giving up the best job in the world. But them's the breaks.
A jeering crowd tried to drown Johnson out. He showed no contrition, insisting to the very end he was not the problem, his MPs were to blame.
And in the last few days, I've tried to persuade my colleagues that it would be eccentric to change governments when we're delivering so much and when we have such a vast mandate. But as we've seen at Westminster, the herd instinct is powerful. When the herd moves, it moves.
And the revolt moved fast. The last 48 hours tumultuous.
I can't serve under the Prime Minister.
A tidal wave of Johnson's ministers and aides resigned.
That the problem starts at the top.
And public pressure grew.
It was definitely time. He's done too much damage.
We've had all the scandals that he has overlooked and denied.
Did quite well with the COVID vaccinations. I just think he let himself down personally and ethically.
But in this Tory stronghold, utter disappointment.
Terrible! Terrible!
We voted for him. We want him kept.
But the Tories are already looking for someone new.
It's time to move on, and we need to turn the page and do so quickly.
The question now, how quickly? Johnson says he'll stay on as Prime Minister until there's a new one.
His own party have finally concluded that he's unfit to be Prime Minister. They can't now inflict him on the country for the next few months.
In the end, it was one scandal too many.
Being Prime Minister is an education in itself.
Johnson said in politics, no one is indispensable. He's now learned, not even him.
Actually so quiet now at Downing Street, but a much different scene this morning.
And it was loud, and there was a battle to be heard just behind me in front of this famous door. Johnson was at the microphone trying to resign. This direction, you had people behind the gates who were cheering and screaming and booing. And then on either side, you had government and Conservative staff who were trying to counter that by cheering. So it made for a hectic scene here.
And what happens next, Ashley?
Well, the race to replace Johnson, it's already started. There's an MP who's launched a leadership campaign, and behind the scenes, there are many others who are jockeying to do the same.
All right, Ashley, thank you.
Thank you.
Boris Johnson always seemed to find a way to survive scandals until today. Susan Ormiston walks us through the long line of blunders and missteps and why this time was different.
It wasn't supposed to end this way. For the populist politician with the wild hair and blunt talk, known simply as Boris.
The doubters, the doomsters, the gloomsters, they are going to get it wrong again.
Boris Johnson made his political mark as the flamboyant two-term mayor of London. A media magnet, unabashedly turning bungling moments into political capital. Gaffes and affairs tolerated. It was just Boris.
He could lie, he could cheat, he could do all sorts of things that would have ended the career of any other politician. But the public liked him.
We did it!
He steered the Conservatives to a massive majority in 2019 and a mandate to navigate Brexit. But once inside Downing Street, Boris's bungles turned fatal. Thrown into the pandemic, he urged Britons to follow the rules.
I must give the British people a very simple instruction. You must stay at home.
But even after a serious COVID case himself,
So we'll have a temperature.
Prime Minister ignored those rules, enjoying drinks parties inside number 10 Downing and then denying they ever happened.
People remembered that when they were in lockdown, they stuck to the rules, and Boris Johnson and his team didn't. And I think that's when the public really felt they had enough of him.
Partygate was the beginning of the end, followed by backlash this week over a politician he'd appointed with a history of fondling, and Boris knew.
What message does this send to the British people facing a cost of living crisis while their government is paralysed with scandal?
His party in mutiny. Comforted by his young family, Boris Johnson has run out of bluster. Susan Ormiston, CBC News, Washington.